If you've listened to my podcast, watched one of our videos before, you know I'm a big fan of asking effective questions. We can all be better in asking questions. Now, think about this. It's one of the most important and most compelling tools that you have as a seller at your disposal to help people to change. If you are trying to become more effective in your role, master asking questions. Now, let's not just ask regular old questions. How could you ask more beautiful questions? My guest today is going to break down 3 phases that you need to go through when you're developing your questions that can make them even more beautiful. Check it out. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist podcast. I'm your host, your coach, your mentor, your guide down the sales journey, Mr. Donald C. Kelly, the Sales Evangelist. And I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today. And on this episode, we're bringing on a guest. His name is Bryan Kelly. We're not kin, at least not close, maybe way distance. We actually joke about that and talk about that on this episode. But Bryan he's doing something amazing right now. He is helping entrepreneurs, business owners, sales professionals, leaders like you and me as a strategic advisor dissect and be able to implement the concept and principles from one book every month. Connect with him on LinkedIn, because if you think about it, we read so many books, or we listen to a lot of books these days. Do we get a chance to implement the things we're learning from those books, however? He's going to tell us how he's doing that and helping others, but more importantly, how he's helping leaders to ask more beautiful questions, how he can help you as a sales professional. There are 3 things that he's going to break down. Actually, I'm not going to tell you what they are. You need to listen to them. Let's dive into the episode, and Bryan will guide you down that journey.
Stepping back. And really, like, a lot of great ideas strike when you're disengaged. You know, I've fallen into the trap myself where it's like, no, I'm just going to keep grinding away, and at some point, something will click. But the real purpose here is to take a break, to step away from that challenge, that's, problem that you're seeking a solution for, and just, take a break. It's good to schedule this. Actually, if part of your regular routine is each day is to take a break from work, go for a walk, ride a bike, whatever. Inspiration is going to likely strike, especially when you're very focused consciously on solving a problem or finding, a creative solution to something. So when you take a break, this essentially allows time for you to observe the world around you, kind of like that mindfulness perspective. And you get to see things that are familiar in a slightly new way, because you're slowing down, you're taking time to bring everything kind of to the forefront of your mind and not thinking about that problem, and avoids just going through life on autopilot. So that's the first thing, is being able to step back and just take a break.
I really like that idea of taking a break. I saw it.
Ask why is to challenge assumptions, and that's not just assumptions of other people. Like, it's even your own assumptions. So the way that we do this is essentially we have to be willing to challenge others and believe that really anything's possible. That anything can change, no matter how many times people tell us we can't do it, or how many times we tell ourselves it can't be done. So there's a couple questions we can ask. First is, like, why should I settle for what currently exists? Or, if it's something that with your sales team that you're trying to work through, like, why should we settle for the way that things currently are with our process, or, how we're approaching, prospecting or a deal? Just really start to question, like, why? Why is it this way? And then, like, that starts to open up all sorts of avenues that you can explore. The second thing is, we want to, to be like, why do we believe this, right? Why are we believing that somebody at some point said this is how it should be done and you can't do it another way? So it's really, again, challenging that assumption and getting to the root cause of why something is currently the way that it is, which then starts it builds up the energy around, well, maybe we could do it a particularly different way or think of it differently. is to do what they call question the questions. So that's like turning something into a yes/no question, essentially. So sometimes, if we reframe a question, it forces us to challenge the assumption of that original idea, which I just mentioned a moment ago. So you can ask yourself, like, is this still a valid question, or is it, something that's kind of irrelevant at this point? You can also, go back and kind of rephrase that original question that you're asking about a particular situation, scenario, or solution that you're trying to get at. So it's really kind of like reframing the context and being able to look at it from that different perspective. The book is what we call the 5 whys. You may have heard this one before, which is, I think he popularized it actually. In the last several years, it's become a little bit more of a common thing, but it's literally asking the question why 5 times in a row to get to the root problem or the root cause of a particular situation. So it would be like, we have this sales process designed this way. Okay, great. Why? Well, it was because we originally had experience with so-and-so and such and such. Okay, got it. Why that? So you keep just going deeper and deeper and deeper. You go 5 times, and by the time you get to that 5th level, you may, and it's 5 is kind of like a rule of thumb. It may be that you've really uncovered like the root of why something was done that way, which then helps unlock how you can do it differently or begin to think about it or approach it differently. But sometimes you may have to go 7, 8 times. I've gone through this exercise myself quite a bit, and it's surprising. Sometimes you get it pretty quick, and other times you got to keep digging and digging and digging. So that's the first phase. Any questions before I move on to phase 2? Many of the most successful solutions in our life are a blend of functions or features of an existing solution or solutions that already are out there. A very simple example of this is something like the iPhone, right? It's like a cell phone and a computer basically combined together, and you get like the best of both worlds, as opposed to back in the day when we had a cell phone that was kind of clunky, and then, maybe a laptop, that you could use, but certainly a desktop computer. Well, now we've got them all combined into one thing. Another example that just popped in my head is like Netflix. These 3 things, what would that look like? So you can start to see that when you use combinatorial thinking, that it begins to help you really just let go of the shackles of the way things are right now and imagine a future possibility or a vision of what that might look like. So again, when we talk about sales, within the sales team context or the sales team, as a whole and everything that we're working together on, this helps us start to see possibilities and angles that we might not have seen before. Live with the question. So we don't have to answer this question right away. Believe it or not, oftentimes we want to answer questions like in the moment. Yeah. But if we're disciplined about this and we're committed to a very fruitful process, which are these 3 phases I'm sharing today, we don't have to answer that question right away. So I'd mentioned this earlier in our conversation. A lot of the neuroscientific research in the last decade or 2 has shown that when we give our mind the opportunity to relax a bit, maybe even get distracted, like play a video game, watch a show, whatever that is, walking, that helps us kind of, like you'd mentioned, clear your mind a bit. You kind of take a break from whatever it is that you're wrestling with. Well, that just opens up unique opportunities, because subconsciously your brain is still working on that problem. And that's the power of our brain, is that it is actually doing that. And, it's constantly in the background mulling over these ideas. And so when you let them incubate a bit, you're going to be surprised by those aha moments that follow. And that's why oftentimes, we'll be in the shower or driving in the car or, wherever it is. And then you're like, oh my gosh, I just figured this out. And that's because you've given your brain consciously the opportunity to stop thinking about it and subconsciously work on that. So that's living with the question, is really just letting it ruminate, letting it, simmer in the background, and you will be working towards figuring out a solution.
Love it, man. This explains a lot now.
Or on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. That's the only social channel that I put energy and effort into. So you can find me there. It's, the linkedin.com/Bryan, Bryan, Kelly, Kelly, now, NOW.
Awesome, man. Well, Bryan, thank you again for coming on the show and for sharing your wisdom. We truly appreciate it.
Thanks again for having me on here, Donald. It was a pleasure, and hopefully all your readers, not readers, but listeners or watchers, if you're watching on YouTube, got a ton of value from this.
Hey, now you're asking more beautiful questions, right? Thank you, Bryan. I appreciate you coming on the show, and I appreciate you being here today listening. And if you're watching this on YouTube, I appreciate you doing that. If this is your first time watching one of our videos, go ahead and hit subscribe and hit that chime, and we'll notify you whenever we produce a new video. If you're listening to our podcast on Apple or one of the many different podcast players for the first time as well, please go ahead and subscribe. Just hit that subscribe button. And if you're not, if this has been your 10 millionth time listening to one of our episodes, please, and you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe. It will just be greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. As always, I want you guys to succeed, man. Think about it. I'm a big fan of effective questions. I'm a big fan of those beautiful questions. And now you have that tool. I want to bring on more people that can help you to succeed in your role. If there's a topic that you want to get more help on, just go ahead and let me know, and I'll make sure to bring that guest on. Besides that, listen up. Our sponsors are friends of ours, and they're giving you some great deals and great offers, and I want you to take advantage of them. You can find all the information about them by clicking on the links in the show notes. I want you to thrive and succeed. I want you to go out. I want you to get the sale. But most importantly, I want you to raise your level of thinking and do big things. Hey, thanks so much for taking the time to watch this video today. If you enjoyed the content, I ask you to go ahead and hit that like button, that thumbs up at the bottom right-hand corner. Also, to make sure to subscribe if you haven't done so already. This way, we'll keep you up to date with all the latest sales strategies, latest tools, and things that are going to help you to not only find more prospects, but to close more deals. Thanks so much.